Dr. Mara Velen wiped a bead of sweat from her brow as she adjusted the lens on her portable scanner. The heat of Kepler-9's midday sun pressed against the transparent dome of the research station, turning the air inside humid and still. Outside, endless fields of violet grass swayed in a gentle breeze, their tips shimmering like tiny lanterns. Mara loved this world for its strange plant life, but today she felt a quiet tension in her chest. She was alone on the plains, hours away from the main habitat ring. Her team had gone back to the orbiting ship for supplies, leaving her to finish one last sample of the new bioluminescent fern. The dome's walls hummed softly as the environmental controls kept the temperature steady. Mara set her scanner beside the fern's roots. She knelt down and reached out, her gloved hand hovering over the flesh of the glowing leaves. The light pulsed gently, matching her own slow heartbeat. "Let's see what secrets you hold," she whispered. As she pressed the scanner against the fernia pollen sacs, a low rumble shook the dome. Mara sprang to her feet, heart pounding. The grass outside lay still for a moment, and then the ground shivered in waves. Red alert lights blinked above her head. The scanner's readout went wild, numbers shifting too fast to track. Mara raced to the control panel. "What on Earth?" "No. Not Earth," she muttered. Sensors showed a massive object descending from the sky, its shape too strange to identify. It moved like a living thing, not like a spacecraft. The dome's computer barked warnings that the atmospheric gates would lower to allow the object to land. Mara's mind flashed back to the stories from the Galactic Conservation Corps. Rumors of a bioship had circulated for centuries, an enormous living vessel that carried the alien queen herself. No human had ever seen it. Outside, the dome's shield slid open with a hiss. Mara's breath caught in her throat as she peered out. Across the violet grass, something immense traced a path straight toward her station. It looked like a coral reef carved from black glass, alive with pulsing light. As it drew closer, she saw tendrils that stretched like giant vines, each tipped with glowing orbs. No ordinary ship could behave like this. The structure bent and flexed as if it breathed. The massive vessel settled onto the plains 100 meters away. Dust and spores swirled around it, tinting the air copper. Mara felt the station tremble beneath her boots. She backed away from the window, pressing her hand to the glass. The tendrils on the ship recoiled, then one extended and tapped against the dome's exterior. A small panel slid open in the hull of the vessel, revealing a dark entrance. Two tall figures stepped out, draped in robes of living matter that shifted colors with every movement. Between them walked a figure of undeniable authority. The alien queen. She was taller than any human, nearly 3 meters from foot to crown. Her skin glowed faintly violet, and her many eyes, 6 on each side of her face, gleamed like polished gems. Her crown was not metal, but a natural extension of her skull, branching upward in delicate arcs like a living tree. Her robes flowed around her like liquid light, casting patterns on the ground. Mara's breath caught. She had studied alien species for years, but nothing prepared her for this sight. Then the queen paused. In a motion so graceful it seemed, rehearsed for millennia, she bent at the knees. One slender leg folded beneath her and her body sank until her forehead nearly touched the grass. The tendrils behind her curled in concentric circles as if honoring her act. The smaller figures also knelt. All 3 bowed before Mara's dome, an offering of respect reserved for the highest dignitaries of the galaxy. Mara stood frozen. In her hand, the scanner slipped and clattered to the ground. She stifled a gasp. Why did the queen kneel? Mara glanced at the comm badge on her chest. The recorder function blinked red, but no one on the ship would believe this. Her eyes stung. She thought of the legends. The queen ruled with a mixture of fear and admiration. Entire worlds bent to her will, and yet here on a lonely plain she knelt to a human. Mara swallowed hard. She approached the window, hand pressed flat against the glass. She had no translator ready. She had no idea how to greet this monarch. But she dared not turn away. The silence pressed against her eardrums. The queen remained still for what felt like an eternity. Then a soft glow spread from the queen's crown, Light rippled across the grass like water. Mara realized the glow was a signal. Her comm badge crackled. "This is Dr. Velen," she said, voice small. "I, welcome you to Kepler 9 Research Station Delta." The comm badge translator coughed, but her words came through loud and clear. The alien queen's glowing eyes snapped upward, focusing on Mara's face through the glass. Each pair of eyes seemed to ask the same question. Why? Mara's heart thrummed. She swallowed again. She forced her voice steady. "Please stand. I'd like to know why you kneel before me." No protocol existed for a creature like this. She could call for security, but if she did, the queen might flee or strike. Better to speak first. Better to show strength in calm. The queen remained kneeling. A tendril pressed against the dome's door panel. The panel slid open without alarm. The queen rose on one knee and bowed her head lower. Breaths of bioluminescent mist escaped her robes, drifting into the station like glowing snow. Mara knew she should step back, but fascination held her in place. Across the gulf of silence and alien culture, she sensed an offer. A bond, perhaps. Or a plea. Behind her, the recorder blinked. Future generations would ask what happened next. Mara straightened. She drew a slow breath and stepped toward the exit hatch. She pressed her hand against the console and watched the shields retract. The queen's form grew clearer in the doorway, her crown's light reflecting in Mara's eyes. No words had been spoken, yet Mara felt a tide of change sweep through her. In that moment, she became more than a scientist. She was the bridge between humanity and an alien race whose power spanned the stars. As she crossed the threshold, the violet grasses brushed her boots. The queen watched her approach with quiet patience. Mara's mind raced. She had no idea what the future held, but she knew one truth. This day, on the windswept plains of a distant planet, would change everything. And she felt a thrill of wonder, excitement, and fear all at once. The queen knelt once more, not in fear, but in reverence. Mara bowed her head, meeting an ancient gaze that shone with curiosity. Humanity's fate in the cosmos had just begun. Mara's boots sank into the soft violet grass as she stepped outside the research dome. The afternoon sun painted long shadows across the plain, but her attention was locked on the alien queen. The queen remained kneeling just beyond the hatch, her crown's soft glow pulsing in rhythm with some ancient heartbeat. Two attendants flanked her, taller than any human yet slight in build, each swathed in robes that shifted color like living stained glass. Mara paused, hand on her comm badge, torn between protocol and curiosity. No military escort, no armed guards. Just her and this being of immeasurable power. She forced her shoulders back and took another step forward. "You may rise," she said as clearly as she could. Her voice sounded small against the vastness of the plain. Slowly, the queen lifted her torso. One slender leg straightened, then the other. Her attendants mirrored her motion, rising in unison. When she stood, her crown almost grazed the dome's upper frame. Her eyes, 12 in all, focused on Mara with an intensity that felt both warm and fierce. For a moment, neither spoke. A fine breeze stirred the grasses at their feet, and the distant hum of the orbiting ship's engines lowered to a faint whisper. Mara swallowed her fear. "Why did you kneel before me?" she asked again. The queen's bioluminescent robes undulated, and then the translator on her comm badge clicked. A voice, calm and resonant unlike any human tone, emerged from the device. "Savior of my seed, I prostrate before you." The words echoed in Mara's mind as much as in her ears. Mara faltered. "My seed?" she echoed, stepping closer. "I do not understand." The queen inclined her head. "Long ago my brood faced extinction. A plague of fungus swept through our home world of Yerval, killing millions. Only one enzyme hidden in the lifeblood of another species could halt the blight. Prophecy spoke of a visitor from Earth's last green world who would bear this cure." Mara's heart hammered. She recalled the catalogued species on Earth. 15,000 years ago, the world had been verdant, Now it was barren. Had someone on Irval known this history? But she had never heard of any enzyme, least of all one that might live in her own veins. She reached up and tapped the comm badge on her chest. "You think I carry that enzyme?" she asked, voice trembling. The Queen's eyes brightened. "Our scouts detected your arrival. They found traces of the enzyme in your blood. It matches the pattern described in the ancient texts." She held out a hand and a low hum filled the air. From her palm floated a crystalline shard, no larger than Mara's thumbnail, glowing with pale green light. "This is a sample of our blight. Present it to the cure-bearer." Mara's brow furrowed. "You want me to prove I'm this cure-bearer?" The Queen nodded, each facet of her crown glinting in the sun. "Prove your kinship to the prophecy." Mara swallowed. She unstrapped the sample box at her waist and opened it. Inside lay a sealed vial of fungal spores, harvested earlier that morning for containment study. She hesitated only a moment before retrieving the vial. She held it out flat in her gloved hand, then removed her glove, uncorked it, and placed a single drop on her palm. The Queen watched silently. Mara closed her eyes and willed calm into her heart. She pressed the drop against her finger, then touched her inner arm. A faint warmth blossomed where the spore met skin. She braced herself, expecting pain or illness, but none came. Instead, the drop dissolved, almost as if the living cells around it reached out and consumed it. In its place, nothing but her own pulse. Mara blinked and looked up. The Queen's eyes glowed brighter. "You are she," the translator spoke. "The Savior has accepted the burden." Mara drew back. She scanned the horizon, heart pounding. "This is real? I don't know how to cure your people. I'm a botanist, not a doctor for your kind." The Queen rose fully and stepped forward, each footfall silent on the grass. "My attendants will guide you. We have labs aboard the bioship. There your blood will be studied and a counteragent will be crafted." Her voice held no doubt. "Will you come?" Mara closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the alien air. Her life had been small, collecting samples, cataloging species, studying plants in isolation. Now she faced a choice: retreat to human safety or step into the unknown for the sake of an entire civilization. She thought of the violet ferns, the endless grass, the birds she heard only in recordings. Life demanded defense. She nodded. "I will help, but you must promise no harm will come to my people." The Queen's crown dimmed slightly, a gesture of relief or respect. Mara could not tell. "No harm to Earth. Your species will be honored as guardians." Mara stepped toward the hive-like bioship. As she climbed the short ramp, she noticed the attendants watching her with solemn eyes. The interior of the vessel pulsed with warm light, walls breathing gently as if alive. Vines of bioluminescent growth lined the corridors, guiding her toward the central chamber. Inside, the Queen's court awaited. Scientists of her race, with instruments grown rather than built, all silent, at her command. They bowed as Mara entered. A platform of living wood rose from the floor, small but enough to place her vial. She felt every gaze upon her, as if she stood at the heart of a storm. The primary scientist, a lithe figure with 6 arms, approached. With deft movements, she transferred the vial's contents into a crystalline analyzer. The machine glowed green, then shifted to a brilliant gold. Data scrolled across its surface. The enzyme structure, its stability in alien physiology, its compatibility with Irval's biochemistry. Mara watched numbers and alien symbols swirl together until the instrument dinged softly. A final readout appeared. Enzyme viability, 100% match. The scientist bowed deeply. "Savior of seed, your gift is true." Mara swallowed. She realized her life would never be the same. The Queen approached and extended her hand. Mara placed her own palm against the Queen's, feeling a pulse of warm energy surge through her. It was neither painful nor soothing, but something ancient, an exchange of trust. The Queen spoke, her many eyes closing for a moment. When she opened them, a tear of bioluminescent liquid traced down her cheek. I pledge the might of my empire. To you, Dr. Maravellan. Together we will end the blight. Mara nodded. She glanced back at the laboratory console, then at the open strip of grass visible through the vessel's port. Humanity and Irval would stand side by side to heal a dying world. She felt fear, excitement, and determination all at once. The bioship hummed beneath her feet. She made a silent vow. She would learn everything needed to save these beings who knelt before her, and she would bring hope to worlds she had never known. The Queen's reverence, once seeming strange and humbling, now felt like the call of destiny, and Maravellan was ready to answer. The bioship's corridors pulsed with soft green light as Dr. Maravellan followed the alien queen's attendants deeper into the living vessel. Each step felt surreal. Vines woven into the walls swayed gently, and the air smelled faintly of wet earth and ozone. Mara touched the smooth surface of a bioluminescent frond growing along the rail. It felt warm, almost like a resting creature. Ahead, the queen led her to the archives chamber, an immense domed room lined with crystalline spires. These spires held data not on metal or glass, but in living memory. When someone approached, the crystals glowed and projected shifting images into the air. Mara watched as flickers of a distant world played before her, forests the size of continents, oceans that glowed with biolife, and creatures that soared between glowing trees. The queen gestured toward a central spire. "Here lies our history," her translator spoke in a gentle tone. "What you seek is recorded in the prophecy of Seed." Mara stepped closer, catching a glimpse of alien script winding around the crystal like living vines. She hesitated, then placed her hand on its smooth surface. A rush of images filled her mind, a fungus spreading like a storm, creatures withering under its touch, a single drop of glowing liquid falling into a pool of blight, turning the dead to living once more. Finally, she saw a figure garbed in human clothing, holding aloft a small vial that shone like a star. She blinked and withdrew her hand, breath catching in her throat. The queen watched patiently. "The prophecy speaks of a cure-bearer, one whose blood contains the key to life." Mara struggled to steady her voice. This is me?" The queen inclined her head. "The echoes of memory name you." Mara glanced at the attendants, who all bowed their heads. She felt a chill. If the prophecy was true, she was part of something much larger than herself. A soft chime sounded, and a smaller attendant floated toward Mara, carrying a thin, leaf-like tablet. "This holds our most recent studies," it said. Spheres of light, projected from the tablet, revealing charts and graphs and alien symbols. The attendant tapped a symbol that looked like a spiral, and the projections shifted to show molecular diagrams. The structure of the viridian blight fungus, its enzymes, its growth patterns. Alongside it, another diagram formed. An enzyme in human blood, labeled in the human alphabet as Maravellan's enzyme. Mara's pulse quickened. The diagram looked eerily like the protein structures she had studied in Earth labs, but these projections showed how the enzyme bonded with the fungus at a molecular level, breaking down its cell walls. She watched as green tendrils of the fungus dissolved under the enzyme's touch. "I need data from Earth," Mara said, heart racing. "Samples of the enzyme, blood studies, everything." The queen stepped forward. "Our scouts have secured your research logs from your ship. We have the blood sample you provided. Our labs can replicate and enhance it." Mara closed her eyes. I would like to study the original data myself." The queen nodded. "Then come with me to the research gallery." They left the archives chamber and walked through a broad hallway of living wood. Tendrils of bioluminescence arched overhead like stained glass windows. Along the way, Mara saw other humans, scientists, medics, and even engineers, working side by side with alien researchers. Some adjusted living consoles, others talked quietly in clusters around glowing tables. Everywhere she looked, life formed, the tools of science. At the research gallery, Mara found a familiar sight. her own ship's portable lab modules integrated into the Queen's living architecture. She opened a clear containment box and removed a holoprojector. Activating it, she saw holographic pages of her notes, pH readings of Fernia spores, DNA sequences of Kepler-9 flora, and her final entries about the fungus sample. It was her work, but filtered through alien technology, it looked like art. Mara tapped a menu icon and summoned Earth's reference database. Images of ancient forests, long-extinct creatures, and human research stations flickered into life. She scrolled to a file labeled Green Years, a record of Earth's last millennia of green abundance. She studied photos of towering redwoods, vibrant coral reefs, and vast wetlands. Next, she opened a sequence of blood studies from her own medical records. The projections showed her blood's enzyme levels. A small graph appeared, with a spike at the time she first entered the dome. She frowned. The enzyme spiked when I arrived on Kepler-9. It's as if my body recognized the blight. An alien researcher, sleek and tall with 4 arms, approached. Its translator spoke softly. Your blood reacts in the presence of similar pathogens. We observed the enzyme's activation when spores were near. The creature pointed to a display showing the enzyme's gene expression curves. Your physiology shares an ancestor with our own biochemistry. Mara's breath caught. Ancestor? The researcher nodded. Billions of years ago, a seed traveled between worlds. Life spread from planet to planet on cosmic winds. Your species and ours share that ancient birth. She stepped back, mind whirling. So we are connected. Yes, the Queen's voice echoed behind her. The prophecy speaks of unity. The cure-bearer unites life across the stars. Mara felt a swell of emotion, awe for the vastness of history, gratitude for the chance to help, and a shiver of responsibility. She turned to the Queen. What comes next? The Queen's crown shimmered. We gather the Council of Worlds. They must see the proof. Mara nodded. And then we mass-produce the enzyme? Not just produce, the Queen said. We will adapt it to each world's life. Your gift will become many gifts. A gentle alarm chimed through the gallery. The Queen glanced at a floating display. Outbreak reported on Irval's eastern forests. The blight spreads faster than we can contain. Mara's heart tightened. She had hoped for more time, but the fungus was already advancing. Show me the data. A projection appeared, mapping red blotches across the green forests of Irval. The blotches pulsed, growing larger with each second. The Queen's attendants stood at attention. Mara took a steadying breath. I need to prepare a sample batch here, she said. We must test the enzyme's speed, dosage, and delivery. The Queen inclined her head. The laboratories await. Mara turned to follow her, but paused to touch the holoprojector one last time. She thought of her homeworld, now a distant memory of lost forests and empty fields. Here, life breathed in every corner of the ship. Here, she held hope in her veins. As they moved down the corridor, Mara felt the weight of destiny settle on her shoulders. She was no longer just a botanist. She was the bridge between species, the bearer of ancient hope. In the glow of alien halls, she whispered to herself, let's save their world, and ours. With that promise in her heart, she stepped forward into the lab, ready to turn prophecy into reality. Dr. Mara Velen stood on the bioship's observation deck, looking out at the swirling nebulae and distant stars. Beside her, the alien Queen's attendants prepared the living shuttle for departure. Today, they would travel to the High Council of Worlds, an ancient gathering where dozens of species argued, debated, and sometimes waged war over resources and territory. Mara felt her heart beat faster. She had never addressed an interstellar council before. Too, she carried with her a cure that might save or shatter billions of lives. The shuttle's living hull flexed as it detached from the bioship. Inside, vines and soft light curved along the ceiling, guiding their path. Attendants tended to Mara, fastening a data crystal to her wrist. The crystal held her enzyme studies, the demonstration data, and live samples encoded in nanofibers. The Queen placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. In that quiet moment, Mara found new strength. Together, they would stand before rulers of 1,000 worlds. When they arrived at the Council's grand station, a ring of floating platforms tethered to a central tower, delegates from every corner of known space waited. Some wore armored suits. Others donned robes of shifting color. A massive holographic emblem of the Council hovered above the assembly area. As they disembarked, whispers rippled through the crowd. The cure-bearer has come. Mara steadied her breath and followed the Queen down a spiral ramp of living wood. In the central chamber, a high dais rose like a small mountain. On its peak sat the Elder Convener, a being of ancient power whose 8 eyes reflected centuries of judgment. Below, delegates packed the amphitheater, jostling for position. The Queen knelt at the base of the dais and addressed the convener in her resonant voice. The convener nodded and gestured for Mara to step forward. All eyes turned to her. She felt the heat of their gazes, full of curiosity, doubt, and even hostility. Clearing her throat, she placed her data crystal on a living console that bloomed with light. Holographic panels sprouted around her, displaying images of Yerval's forests, ravaged by the Viridian blight. Red blotches spread over once green canopies like wounds. Mara held up a small vial. It contained a droplet of her blood mixed with the living enzyme. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice firm but clear. "I am Dr. Mara Velen of Earth. I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a fellow bearer of life." She pressed a control on her crystal. The panels shifted to show the molecular dance between enzyme and fungus, green filaments dissolving black spores. "This enzyme is a perfect match. It dissolves the blight at its core." A murmur rose. Some delegates gasped, others exchanged skeptical glances. A tall insectoid delegate raised her mandibles in derision. "You claim this drop of blood can save us? Show us proof," she demanded, clicking her claws. Mara nodded, with respect. She activated the sealed chamber behind her, revealing 2 glass cylinders. One held a sample of the Viridian blight spores, the other stood empty. She used a fine pipette to transfer a drop of her enzyme into the empty chamber, then opened a valve to admit spores. Within seconds, the spores clustered, then began to break apart, their structure unraveling in a swirl of green light. Gasps echoed. The insectoid delegate recoiled. "Impossible," she hissed. "No weapon has ever harmed the blight." Several delegates nodded in agreement, their voices rising in argument. The convener raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "The evidence stands before us." His eyes turned to the Queen. "Your people have long suffered. Will you share this cure?" The Queen inclined her head. "We will not guard it. We offer it freely to all worlds in need." A wave of response swept the chamber. Some delegates cheered, others scowled. A reptilian envoy snapped, "And what guarantee do we have that this cure will not mutate? That it will not turn on us?" Mara held up her vial again. "We will conduct tests tailored to each world's ecosystem. My team and I, alongside your scientists, will work to adapt the enzyme safely." She tapped her crystal, and new panels showed projected timelines, sample extraction, lab adaptation, field trials, and mass distribution fleets. This plan can heal lives in weeks, not years. A hush fell. The convener studied Mara with his many eyes. Then he spoke in a voice that rumbled like a distant earthquake. "Dr. Velen, you have faced the blight with courage and proof. The High Council votes to accept this cure and to stand with Earth and Yerval in healing the galaxy." Delegates roared in approval. Vines along the chamber walls glowed brighter, as if celebrating. Mara exhaled, relief washing over her. She glanced at the Queen, whose crown pulsed in soft gratitude. Outside the chamber, banners unfurled on each platform, the symbols of Earth, Yerval, and dozens of allied worlds. News feeds blitzed the cosmos with the announcement, "A human, scientist and an alien queen unite to defeat the Viridian blight." Holo broadcasters sent live feeds to home planets, sparking celebrations and hope. In some worlds, shrines lit candles in Mara's honor. In others, the first production labs began preparations. Back aboard the bioship, labs churned night and day. Mara worked alongside alien biochemists, teaching them human lab protocols, while they taught her the art of growing living machines from seed. Trials in petri dishes and living test chambers confirmed the enzyme's stability. Adaptive strains formed, each tailored to a specific planet's nutrients and temperature ranges. Fleet ships, living biocarriers, docked at the station each hour loaded with seedlings meant to nurture enzyme bioreactors on distant worlds. Mara watched them depart, each vessel carrying hope across the stars. She felt exhaustion seep into her bones but never faltered. Every time she doubted, she thought of the violet plains of Kepler-9 and the Queen's Kneel. She reminded herself that fear and hope both sprang from the same place, care for life. Weeks passed in a blur of experiments, meetings, and shuttle flights. Delegates who once scoffed now sought Mara's counsel. The insectoid envoy approached her one evening in a living corridor. "Dr. Velen," she said haltingly, "I doubted you, but I see now your heart matches your science. Thank you." She bowed, her mandibles clicking softly. Mara smiled and clasped her claws gently in a gesture of friendship. On the morning of the Council's final summit, Mara and the Queen stood together beneath the great emblem. Delegates gathered on the floating platforms, new alliances formed, old grievances set aside. The convener declared the Blight Council, a permanent body, to guard against future threats and to foster unity among stars. The Queen turned to Mara, her many eyes bright. "Together we have rallied the galaxy," she said through the translator. "Your courage and wisdom have earned Earth a place among the honored." Mara felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you, Your Majesty, but none of this could happen without your faith." The Queen lowered her head. "Your gift saved my people. It is I who owe you life." In that moment, delegates cheered, and living vines unfurled blossoms of light. Across the galaxy, hope burned brighter than any star. Humanity's role had shifted from distant observer to protector of life itself, and Dr. Mara Velen, scientist and savior, embraced her destiny among the stars. The sky over Kepler-9 glowed with the first light of dawn as Dr. Mara Velen stepped onto the restored plains. The violet grass was now dotted with fresh green shoots, the first signs of life returning after the Viridian blight had receded. All around her, alien engineers and human biologists worked side by side, planting seedlings infused with the healing enzyme. A warm breeze carried faint scents of wildflowers and ozone, a reminder of the living ship's gentle power. Mara paused to watch a small group of Yerval children, tall, lithe creatures with luminous skin, skipping through the grass. Their laughter sounded like music. One child stopped and held out a glowing flower to her. Mara knelt and accepted it, feeling its soft petals pulse under her fingers. It was a simple gift, but it spoke volumes. Life returned, joy returned, hope returned. Behind her, the alien queen emerged from the bioship's ramp. She wore a ceremonial robe of living vines and blossoms woven to celebrate renewal. Her multifaceted eyes shone with pride as she approached Mara. The ship's attendants formed a respectful line, each holding tokens of the planet's recovery: a basket of fresh seeds, a vial of pure spring water, a carved staff made from the living wood of the ship itself. Mara rose to greet her. "It's beautiful," she said softly, looking across the plains. "I never imagined I'd see such recovery so quickly." The Queen's voice, carried through the translator, was gentle. "You have given us a gift beyond measure. Your enzyme saved my people, and now this world breathes again." Mara offered the flower back to the Queen, who accepted it with a graceful nod. "This belongs in your people's hands," Mara said. "It's yours as much as ours." The Queen smiled, a slow, luminous curve of her crown's light. "Then let it be the first of many. We will share these seeds with every world healing from the blight." As the sun climbed higher, a soft chime sounded across the plains. Mara checked her comm badge. A message from the High Council of Worlds. The convener had declared a new era, of cooperation, and a fleet of living carriers was en route to Kepler 9 to bring more supplies and specialists for the recovery effort. Mara felt a surge of gratitude for the Council's trust. She turned to the Queen. "They are coming. Soon we will have enough hands and hearts to heal every infected world." The Queen inclined her head. "And so the bond between our peoples will grow." Together, they walked across the plains, stopping at each group of workers to offer words of thanks. Mara visited a circle of human engineers adjusting living bioreactors, vats of glowing fluid where the enzyme multiplied. She offered them coffee synthesized from Kepler 9 beans, strong and sweet, and they cheered. Then she found Irval medics tending to small animals that had been infected and cured. Tiny lizard-like creatures with bioluminescent scales crawled over their hands, chirping in gratitude. By midday, the central plaza of the bioship was filled with celebrating crowds. Banners of Earth and Irval fluttered together, and a living archway of vines and flowers formed overhead. Mara stood at the edge of the gathering, watching the Queen deliver a speech in her resonant voice. The translator carried her words. "Brothers and sisters of all worlds, today we stand at the threshold of a brighter future. Together with our human allies, we have turned the tide against the blight. No longer will fear divide us. No longer will we face this threat alone. Let this day be remembered as the moment life reclaimed its promise." Applause rippled through the crowd. Mara stepped forward, her heart full. When the Queen gestured to her, she took the microphone. The crowd fell silent, all eyes upon the human scientist. "Thank you," Mara began, her voice steady. "I never sought fame or power. I only wanted to understand the living world and protect it. But this journey showed me that hope is stronger than any fear, and cooperation is the best cure for despair. To every hand that planted a seed, every mind that studied a sample, every heart that dared to believe, thank you. We have shown the galaxy what humanity can achieve, not through conquest, but through compassion." The plaza erupted in cheers. Mara allowed herself a small smile. She thought of her home planet, Earth, once ravaged by humanity's carelessness, now reborn in stories of renewal across the stars. If Earth could be saved, perhaps other worlds could follow. After the celebration, Mara retreated to the bioship's upper deck with the Queen. They stood in companionable silence, watching the living carriers approach, ships shaped like great flowers drifting through space. Mara's comm badge signaled incoming video feeds from other worlds, beacons of green light in forests, clear rivers glinting in alien suns, fields of flowers blooming where nothing had grown for ages. The Queen turned to her. "Dr. Velen, you have given us a future. In return, accept this gift." She laid a hand on a small pedestal beside them. On it rested a crystalline orb filled with swirling green and violet light. "This is a seed of worlds. It contains genetic blueprints of thousands of species saved from extinction. It is our pledge. We will guard Earth's legacy as you have guarded ours." Mara took the orb, feeling its warmth. Inside, she saw miniature patterns of leaves, petals, and spores, an archive of living life. "I accept," she whispered, "and I vow to protect it." They bowed to each other, two rulers of their world standing united. In that quiet moment, Mara felt the weight of her journey, from lone botanist on a distant planet, to savior of a civilization, to guardian of life across the galaxy. She realized that destiny wasn't about power, but about service. As the living carriers moored and technicians began unloading supplies, Mara and the Queen walked back toward the restoration fields. Workers paused to greet them, offering fresh saplings and samples of cured soil. Mara's footsteps pressed into soft grass, each one leaving an impression of hope. When they reached the edge of the fields, Mara knelt and placed the crystalline orb in the earth. Light pulsed from it and vines quickly grew, weaving the orb into a living monument. Around it, new plants sprang up, both human and alien species, mixed together in a living tapestry. The monument glowed softly, a beacon for all who came here. The Queen stood beside her. May this monument remind us that life thrives when we stand together. Mara nodded. And may it guide future generations to guard hope as fiercely as they guard home. They rose together, looking out over a world reborn. The violet grass now blended with green shoots, and in the distance the dome of the research station gleamed under twin suns. Beyond that lay the stars, innumerable and inviting. Dr. Mara Velen took a deep breath of the revived air. She felt peace, purpose, and wonder all at once. In the fellowship of humans and Yerval, she saw the promise of unity stretching across light years. The blight was not the end, but a test, and they had passed. As the twin suns climbed higher, Mara and the Queen walked back toward the bioship, ready to guide their peoples into tomorrow. In their steps lay the promise of new worlds, new life, and new beginnings. The dawn of a brighter era had truly arrived.